Hello, everybody. We are back. This is the 2023 version of 12 Authors of Christmas. So I had to start this season off with one of my heavy hitters, Morgan Olivier. So before I let her introduce herself, I'll just tell tell you a funny story.
Oh gosh.
So Morgan is a client of a client.
Yeah.
So she's a referral, but I think we met last year for the first time.
Yep. Vegas.
In Vegas at a writers conference, and she was such a kindred spirit. When we connected this year, I was really going through it, y'all. Like the bottom of my world, like the rug was just pulled from under me. I saw her, she hugged me, and she's like, let's talk about it. Like, didn't even have to say, oh my God, this is what's that. She just looked at me and knew. And I wanted to crumple into a ball of tears. And like, but the work you're doing, which we'll get into, is you are walking, living, breathing the work you're doing. So go ahead, talk to the people, tell them who you are, give them an introduction, and then we'll dive on into it.
Okay. So I don't know what to say for introduction. So, but my name is Morgan Richard Olivier. I'm an author, advocate, and speaker. And I really try to help people understand the importance of mental, spiritual, and personal growth and development. And I actually started my writing journey back in 2016. I'm going to take it all the way back. Yes, to my blogging days. And I always say it. It's so ironic how God works. Because I started writing and sharing with these self-love, everything's positive blogs. And then I went through what most people call a life crisis at 25, and I stopped writing. And, that's really when you're in that spiritual and emotional space where you're really questioning who you are and your identity. And I thought, well, I can't be a writer anymore. I have nothing positive to say. I feel nothing great about the world or myself or what's going on. And that's when I got into my church and understanding my purpose. So I went from writing everything positive to writing about raw emotions and pains and personal struggles, things that people don't discuss. So in 2020, I published my first book, Questions Christ in the Quarter Life Crisis. And since then, I have Blooming Bear, The Tears That Taught Me, One Still Whisper, and The Strength That Stays, that was edited by yours truly.
Woo! Yes, Strength That Stays. This is what we are here for. So when I saw you in Vegas, not to embarrass you.
Oh, goodness.
But you just hit 1 million followers on Facebook.
Yes.
How awesome is that?
Yes.
That is amazing. It is so hard to build a tribe, especially, it's hard to build a tribe when you're not like already a celebrity, especially on Facebook. It's like, where are these people? And you have 1 million of them. I think that is very commendable.
Thank you.
So The Strength That Stays is one of those books that, and this happens, it doesn't happen often, but it happens maybe, let's say, once every 25, 30 books, where I'll read a book and I get so caught up in the writing, I forget to edit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, hold on. Let me go back through. So talk to me a little bit about your inspiration for The Strength That Stays.
So The Strength That Stays was actually written at the same time, a lot of it, as One Still Whisper. And yes, so what I did last year was I was telling people I'm having twins. So a lot of the things that I wrote and felt, especially when it comes to revelations, I put that, and you actually edited 2 manuscripts for The Strength That Stays. But really between that time and especially the beginning of this year, I was doing a lot of fasting, and I say that 2023 was my year of deliverance and development. And I think we all get to this point of our life where we pray for revelation within ourselves or within other people or our family or in our friend groups. And then when we get it, it's depressing. It really is. It's depressing. It's heartbreaking. You see yourself, your family, people you trusted as they are, not as you thought they were or you wanted them to be. So you're left with revelation, but you're left with offense, resentment, condemnation towards other people, towards yourself. And really the whole message behind The Strength That Stays is you have the lessons, you have the revelation. Now only carry the strength that stays with you. Only carry the lessons, because it's so easy for us to say, we're not bothered, we're not this or whatever, I'm over it. But before you go to sleep, you're thinking about it. Or you look to have trust or optimism, and when you reach for it, you can't find it because you gave that in that painful season. So the strength that stays really wants you to not only see and accept your revelations, but let it remind you too that it does not take your identity. Let it empower you and stand on the strength that stays.
Where's the collection plate? Does anybody have? We're passing it to Pastor Olivier. Well, and I think to what I was saying in the intro, you live and breathe your messages. It was like having you there with me, and we have. So the client who introduced me to Morgan is one of my client besties. His name is, well, y'all call him Pierre, Pierre Genty. And he does relationship poetry. So sometimes I come to him like as a friend. Listen, I don't need the poet, the businessman. I need you as a friend. And then sometimes like, I think I'm just gonna go read her to again because I just get so talking to you is like that. It's basically like opening the pages of your book, but having you really speak back to me. It's been very empowering. She sent me scriptures and prayers, which I appreciate. Have you gotten feedback from other readers or fans about your work, and what have they said?
I actually have, and a lot of times, especially early in my social media sharing days of the books and for the strength that stays, a lot of people always tell me, I felt this, but I didn't know how to say it. Or I struggled with this and I thought nobody understood, or I thought I was alone. And the thing is, we all feel like that. That's why I started writing, because I felt like there were people that I knew I couldn't trust. I knew I could literally be vulnerable and give my heart and soul, but you would either mishandle it or misinterpret it. So I'm gonna write it. So we all feel these things. It's knowing that and accepting that not everyone is a safe space, but God will literally align you with people that get it.
Right. And I found that to be true going through my divorce. The people who I thought would have been my safe spaces absolutely, completely were not. I met a girl in the Facebook comment section and we became like thick as thieves, best friends, hanging out, sharing. And then one day I realized, wait a minute, I've only known this girl 6 months, but I'm calling her when anything happens. But these people who I've known for a decade or two, they won't even pick up the phone, or they don't make me feel secure enough to share what I'm going through with them. So what you said is very accurate. I always think reader feedback is interesting. So I'm glad that you've gotten feedback that validates the points you're trying to make and lets you know you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Writing 2 books at once. Talk to me about that experience. How was that?
So I'm actually doing it again, but I think I'm going to
psycho.
Yeah, I know. I think I'm going to do it because this is a perspective that I didn't really take until, again, last year, end of last year, early this year, was because, especially when you're in the mental health, self-help, faith space, everything you go through has so many different aspects. Like we were saying, like you have the mental, emotional, spiritual, revelation, all these different, things you're dealing with. And it helps me because I'm a person, I write constantly. So I could be outside and putting the trash out, and then I pick up my phone and like, it just comes to me. So I've always been like that. I'll be at the gym and like, I'll be there for like an hour and I haven't lifted anything because I've been writing the entire time. So, but it hits me everywhere. So it works out because I was able to get everything out and then put the pieces together. A lot of people want to format it and say, I want this part to be like this, then this, then this. But poetry and prose is not like that. You can feel something. There are things in the Tears That Taught Me. A girl sent me a tattoo the other day. She got on her arm from the introduction of my book, The Tears That Taught Me. I released that book in 2022. I showed one of my family members. I wrote that line, like from that piece, in May of 2018. you piece it where it goes. So I
Wow.
feel like life is like that. Like God will show you something today and it might not make sense for another 5 years. Piece it where it
Hmm.
goes. So yeah.
A tattoo. You are a superstar. That's it. You made it. Somebody got a tattoo of your work. You made it. I want to commend you for, so when you initially sent me the first manuscript,
Mm-hmm.
I went through it, I edited it, and with poetry and prose, I try to just really focus on grammar and if something just does not make sense. But I
Yeah.
try to leave it because I feel like it's more of an art form.
Mm-hmm.
I commend you for taking my edit and saying, you know what, Carla, I think I have more work to do. I'm going to come back. And
Mm-hmm.
you did. So you changed what, about 20 or 30% of it,
Yeah.
and then sent it back. So talk to me a little bit about what encouraged you to do that.
So I had to remember it was a completely different title, everything.
I don't even remember what the
Yeah.
well,
I
I think
hold it because I might use it one day.
okay.
But it was a completely different title and everything. And I'd send it to you. And when you sent it back, of course, you read, it's just every author does that. You just read through. And I read it and I'm like, this is more flesh than spiritual. Like, it's not giving what I want someone to walk away and say, I feel validated, I feel seen, heard, and understood, but I feel like I got this.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't feel that. I felt more of course, during your fast and different things, you see those differences. And I felt more of the flesh than I felt more of the spirit, if that makes sense.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So when it came back to it, I read it and I'm like, okay, it led me to write more. So a lot of the things that I put in, well, they were fresh at that time because it's like, no, I know what I meant. I know the lesson I learned that brought me to this, but I have to give how it changed my perspective or how it helped my faith. And when I sent it back to you, it felt right. And then too, I told Rusty, I was like, I love Carla because you're so honest when you edit things. Like, or you leave these little side remarks like, oh, that was good. But you're very honest. And I appreciated that because it came to the word. I don't even know if you remember the word unapologetic. And I'd used it more than once. It was like towards the end. And you had said something that was very valid. And you're like, well, this has to be impactful. So if you said it like a few other times, and I went back and I took them all out to where I just had unapologetic. I think maybe once or twice because it's right. But I say that because a lot of people are so mindful. Oh, I don't want to offend this person. I don't want to. If you are someone that has my best interest, whether that's personally or professionally, I trust you more if you tell me. You weren't trying to hurt me. You were telling me, hey, this is great, but if you want to be more impactful, be mindful. And I appreciate that with you because anyone that works with you or knows you, you are very approachable, very funny, very nice, but you're going to say what you need to say. And I value that.
So this question is we're digging a little deeper.
Okay.
All right. And if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. You can just be like, next.
Okay.
So in writing this type of work, it's always interesting because you never quite know where the author is in their journey. Are you writing from a place of being healed, or are you writing from a place of pain and healing yourself and your readers as you go?
Both.
Okay.
Both, because I feel like the healing and learning journey is never finished. There are things that like I wrote in previous books. They're all true. They're all valid. But I don't even look at them the same way. You understand? And that's why I tell people all the time, your perspectives, your exposure, your experiences, your emotions, how I feel at 32, I didn't feel that way or understand that at 28 or 27 when I started writing certain things. So I am healing actively because the more you grow, the more you outgrow, the more you have conviction. You're like, okay, God, I've dealt with this, but I see a pattern here. Or I realize that this is a struggle for me, whether I articulate that or not. So I'm constantly growing and healing and assessing myself. So it actually goes to both.
Perspective. That's nice. This is book number 5. How would you say writing it is different than when you wrote, well, I guess book 4 and 5, because you wrote them together. So how is that approach different than your initial work?
Fear. So the first book, I think for all authors, is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And for mine, you have to think my first book was not poetry and prose. It was essentially my testimony. So I tell people, I'm like, I've literally put so much in there that's not flattering, but it's real and it's raw, and it's just how you come to appreciate mental and spiritual health. So when I did that, I had a lot of fear. I had a lot of, oh my God, what if? And after I released the first book, in a lot of ways, it liberated me. So now when I release books, it's like, it's out of me. There's so many things that go on in a writer's mind, and you know that you're a writer, that people look at you and they're like, wow, that's so profound, that's so deep. And it's like, if you only understood how many writers and creators have depression because we can't turn this thing off.
Yes.
Like,
oh my gosh.
So when I do that, that's my way of, if I write it, like I'm done with it. Like it's gone from me. I'm not going to write. That's kind of like going into war. Like, you're not going to say, hey, or you're going into a boxing ring, hey, I have an issue with my shoulder, and they're going to hit you right there. So it's about time I write it and publish it. Like, I've dealt with it. I'm done with it. But I have to say a lot of things. And I tell this to people, a lot of times I write to the person I am and the person I'm becoming. But a lot of things, the way I articulate it, is for my former self, because there are things I needed to hear. And I would have far rather someone telling me or empathizing with me, talking to me, opposed to, and we all go through that, assuming or talking about you or just all this stuff. You really have no idea the headspace people are in or their reality, because you're going off of what perspective. So I write to her a lot, my former self.
It's interesting you talk about so many writers have depression. I had to have, my son is 15. He'll be 16 in February. I was diagnosed as depressed when I was 19 years old. I was in college. Was I 19? Yeah. Because I had to come. Right. I ended up having to come home because it was so bad. And I was having a conversation. Wait, hold on. I'm jumping all over the place. My son. So my son was 9 when their dad walked away, 8 or 9. So he's seen me go through it. And that just exacerbated I was a functioning depressive. Like, I could keep it at bay. I could, put my mask on. But once we started going through the divorce, I could no longer do that. And at some point I had to have the conversation with him about, this is depression. And I don't want you to think I don't love you. I don't care about you. And now his sister was there by that point. I love y'all and I'm doing the best I can, but sometimes mommy just can't. And when I tell you, that boy, he was like, okay, he processed it. He may have asked 1 or 2 questions, but if he sees me, like right now today, if he sees me on that couch and he takes one look at my face, he's like, come on, Queen, let's go on. He'll get his little sister and take her in the room, or he'll bring me water. Sometimes I'll just go in the room and close the door. He'll come in there, put some tea on my nightstand. He thinks I'm asleep, but I see him taking care of me. He'll come sit on the bed, make sure I'm sleeping good. He'll rub my back a little bit and just lay in there with me to just, and it's so amazing that he has taken that on. And I don't want to feel like a burden to him, but to have somebody who can, look after you, that says a lot. But then also to be able to look to another author like yourself, someone whose works are so healing and they minister to your spirit. One of the things about your writing is it's very reflective. So you're writing to your former self. And as I read it, I see that. I can see like, wow, okay, let me think about this. What kind of place was she in when she wrote this? How what was happening? What was she thinking? How can I relay this to my life? So it's you speak to the heart of your audience, and I applaud you for that. It's a talent. It's also a blessing to be able to write and touch so many people.
Oh, thank you.
Moving on. 2 books now again. So what's next for Morgan Olivier?
So I'm definitely, and we had this conversation in Vegas, I'm definitely moving more into my speaking era. Of course, every author, someone told me that years ago, every author is a speaker because the words are there. They're just in you. But I'm definitely in that place of my life where, you go through seasons of being still. And I was in that season for years, being still, taking revelation of myself, the world, everyone around me, and releasing it in writing. But this, like I said, this year has been very evident that it's time to speak and it's time to pivot, because we can talk about pain and we can empathize and we can encourage, but how are we pivoting from the pain? How are we understanding our identity and disruptions in life, different things like that? How are we pivoting from that pain and using it for our purpose? So really the work that I'm doing right now is focusing more in that space of, okay, we get it, we see each other, we hear each other, let's grow together, even if everyone can't come with you. And I think that's the beauty of a community where I see Carla, even if you don't speak, I see you clearly. You see me clearly. And seeing ourselves, knowing ourselves, supporting and protecting ourselves, and moving boldly into who we were created to be.
Another offering in the same church service. Where's the plate? Morgan, oh my goodness, girl. Yes, I'm like, can I cash app you my tithe? Because like, dang.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. All right. So where can the people find you?
Well, you can find me on social media. You're saying my social media handles?
Social media, we're buying books.
Okay. So my books are available online. You can go on my website, modernmorgan.com. You can go on Amazon, other online retailers. If you want to find me on Facebook, Instagram, my handle is Modern Morgan. I'm also on TikTok at Morgan Richard Olivier. So yes.
Okay, TikTok.
Yes.
You guys, if wherever you are in your healing journey, whatever emotions you are feeling, The Strength That Stays is a book you need. I want you to buy a copy for yourself. I want you to buy a copy for someone who you know needs it. And then y'all can do like a little mini book club. But you absolutely need to get this book. It is very impactful. It is powerful. It will change your life. And because she has 5 books, when you finish with The Strength That Stays, work your way back. Get to know the author you are reading. Morgan, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
And hopefully it won't be Vegas. We'll see each other sooner than that. We need to call Alex and get him on the hook.
Look, even if we have to hop on Zoom and kind of give each other an update on life, let's do this.
Let's do it. All right. Thanks, girl. Love you so much.
Thank you. Love you.
Take
Have
care.
a good day.
Bye-bye.